The following content is not suitable for children.
Today, we're going to talk about a woman who really only wants to make him happy. Welcome to Foreplay Radio, Couples and Sex Therapy. I'm Lori Watson, your sex therapist.
And I'm George Fallon, your couples therapist.
And we are passionate about talking about sex and helping you develop a way to talk to each other.
Our mission is to help our audience develop a healthier relationship to sex that integrates the mind, the heart, and the body.
Just as we begin, please remember to check out Uberlube. Uberlube.com is where you can get this great lubricant and help support Foreplay Radio. This woman that we're talking about, George, is really such a typical patient, somebody who is not in touch with her own sexuality particularly, but is oriented toward making her partner happy. And she's anxiously attached, but I want to demonstrate and us to demonstrate kind of what it's like for her. Of course, we're continuing our assessment theme and helping therapists, but we also want to help people who might be married to this type of woman who is kind of preoccupied with not her own experience and not what she gets out of it, either emotionally or physically, but just making sure that he's okay, and how she puts away her own fears and her own worries. We're also going to see how she doesn't want to risk hurting her partner, and that's part of the reason that she keeps her own counsel in terms of what she thinks would make the bedroom experience better.
Right. We want to really get a flavor for not only mechanically how things work, but how do people emotionally come closer or protect themselves. So these are some of these questions that we're going to ask, and we invite you all to just think about your own relationship and see what questions really resonate, which ones are difficult. When we don't have answers, that usually means that's an area we haven't explored that much. So if you don't have an answer to some of these questions, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Okay. So I'm ready. I'm going to be Eleanor.
Eleanor. How old are you, Eleanor?
I will be 44.
44. And do you have children?
I have 3 children.
3 children. And how long are you married, Eleanor?
We have been married 22 years.
All right. So, Eleanor, I just so happy to be meeting with you today. And this is a chance for us to just hang out together. I'm going to ask you questions, not expect any answers, but really the goal today is just to figure out, like, how comfortable are you emotionally with your relationship, both sexually and emotionally? How safe do you feel? We just want to kind of get a snapshot, a picture, and identify any areas that we might improve that just would give you more, just get more out of your relationship.
Okay. I mean, my husband wanted me to do this. I just got to say, I've never been to a therapist before. This feels really weird.
Again, I appreciate you starting off with that. And, this is weird because most of us don't talk about these things, right? So you're coming in and you're saying, my husband wants this, so I'm honoring him. But you're letting me know that this is an area that makes you feel uncomfortable. So thank you for that.
Okay.
So with any of these questions, if you don't want to answer the question, you can just move on to the next one. Like I said, these are standard questions just to give me a picture of how to best help you.
So I get a pass if I need to. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I want you to have fun here. I want you to kind of understand yourself. And if something doesn't feel so comfortable, that's really important for me to know.
Okay, this is definitely not fun.
All right.
Just for the record.
I hear you. I'm writing it down. So here we go, Eleanor. You ready?
Yes.
I see you wriggling your hands there.
I am.
All right. So do you feel close and emotionally connected when you make love with your husband?
Gosh, I don't know that I've ever thought about that. I think, do I feel close and emotionally connected? I think I feel close and emotionally connected sometimes when we're spending time together, sexually, when we're in bed. No, I don't. Honestly, I don't.
Not like starting off with a heavy question right out of the gate.
Jeez.
Right? I just so appreciate you just trying to explore that with yourself. that there are other parts during the day where you feel more closely connected in conversations, but when it comes to actually the act itself of making love, you don't feel as emotionally connected. Okay.
I guess not.
So pause here. As a therapist, this is, again, really good information, just helping us get a doorway into, what makes her feel safe and unsafe, right? So that's part of what I'd want to explore. Like, where does she go if she's not feeling so connected?
Right.
Right.
Those are great questions. That's a
All right.
brilliant question. Next.
So, Eleanor, how about hugging, kissing, cuddling, affection? I mean, do you do that before, after sex? Is that enjoyable?
I like to do that. I like that a lot. Probably after sex, my husband usually falls asleep, and I like affection. He's usually not affectionate unless he wants to have sex, and I know that about him. It doesn't. I would like more of it, I suppose.
So, Eleanor, when you say you don't feel so connected during sex, where do you go?
I think I don't feel comfortable during sex because I'm not sure I'm making him happy, really. I know it makes him happy to have an orgasm, sure, but he never really expresses to me like that he thinks I'm attractive or beautiful or that I've done a good job or that, I don't know. I mean, I hear a lot of complaints about it's not enough. But then when we have sex, I really don't get many of the, any happiness from him or a sense that he's satisfied. So I guess what I'm waiting, I just am anxious the whole time,
So when you say anxious, you're kind of in your head just thinking about, is this working for him? Is he going to have an orgasm? You're just, those wheels are spinning.
Yeah, it's like, how do I get him there? And then afterwards, I kind of feel sort of sad and empty because I don't know if it was enough for him.
Well, again, I appreciate you sharing this. It's a tough spot for you, right? You're not so focused on your body or what's happening because you really love him so much and want him to experience success and pleasure. And you're not sure, and there's an emptiness as you, even afterwards, you're not sure, hey, if he would tell you that was the best day of my life, that was amazing, I mean, you'd get some direct feedback. But when he falls asleep, that leaves you like, I went through this whole process. I hope that was good, but I'm not really sure how that was.
Exactly. And then when he says like a few days later, we don't have enough sex again, it was like, again, it's just, I feel so anxious about the whole thing. I'm not really, I just, before, during, and after, I feel anxious.
Wow. And again, that's so important too. And anybody, I think, in your shoes would feel that way, right? It's not just the anxiety in the moment of having sex. It's like beforehand, you're not sure how long it's going to be before he's critical or not happy. And then during it, you're thinking so much. And then afterwards, you're not sure how good it was. It's like it takes up a lot of space inside you.
It does. It takes up. He thinks I don't think about it, but I think about it all the time.
All right, let's pause here. Again, there's a goldmine of information.
Yeah.
So often it seems like the person who has lower desire or doesn't initiate sex as much doesn't think about it. And this is a real good window into how much Eleanor actually does think about sex. Is it going to be the third day? Is it going to be the fourth day? Is he going to be happy? Is he not going to be happy afterwards? I mean, it's just the racing brain is a real good indicator of the amount of energy that's kind of being focused where these two people are missing each other.
Yeah. And I would say I can like feel her, she's not necessarily thinking about what they can do that's exciting in bed next. She's worried. So she's preoccupied. I'm not pleasing my husband. She's watching and waiting for his response. She's very tuned into him, which for me, when I see a woman who kind of is anxiously attached, but she's what I would say is not necessarily tuned in sexually, this is good news as a sex therapist because I can usually turn her anxiety in a way that becomes directed, and then I imagine he's anxious too in some ways, or something's going on with him. So if I can get her energy about this, her preoccupation, to be slightly more nuanced about perhaps pleasure and eroticism, then we're on it. It's
Right.
easy to do. Okay.
So let's
Go back
this
to Eleanor.
yeah, Eleanor, this next question. I probably wouldn't ask this now, right? Does she feel comfortable with general touch or stimulation? Just as she's exploring her anxiety and going into her emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go right to the. Do you, Eleanor, do you get caught up looking at things from outside the moment as your kind of mind is racing and you're worried about performance? Do you kind of worry about, does your husband find you attractive?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I absolutely. I mean, I don't know if he finds me attractive. I know he looks at porn. That makes me feel bad. Like a couple of reasons, I suppose. He's looking at porn. I tell myself because I'm not enough for him or I'm not giving it to him enough. And then he's looking at all these women who are amazing. And I think this poor guy has to be in bed with me.
Wow. And you're actually thinking this during the act of lovemaking.
And before the act of lovemaking.
And after the act.
Yeah.
Well, again,
I think about it.
I'm glad you could laugh about it because it shows how much energy this takes inside of you.
It does.
Right?
And he thinks I don't care about him, which it's like I would do anything to make him happy.
Right. And do you find sometimes like having a glass of wine or, does anything help relax you and make sex more of an enjoyable experience?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's not enjoyable. I enjoy being close to him, actually.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Thank
believe
you for
that.
correcting me.
Yeah, he doesn't believe that. It's like if I don't have an orgasm, it's the end of the world, and then he's always after me. No, you should too. And it's like, gosh, and that just makes it worse. It makes it worse because then I'm so pressured and it's like we're out of sync. We're just out of sync. It's like he can't be with me. Does wine help? Yeah, wine helps. Wine helps. Yes.
Okay. Again, I love the curiosity as you're just trying to lean into these areas normally you don't want to talk about. But if you're so worried about, does he want me and is this going to work well? And then he's worrying about, are you going to and there's just a lot of worrying going on there. And having a glass of wine seems to take a little of that edge off, make it a little bit easier for you to kind of get started.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, I think, now that you mention it, the getting started part is the hard part. Because oftentimes it's like he comes in and he's all ready to go and, still have the kids to get down and get their homework done and all that. And then it's like, it's nice when he comes in and he says that. That kind of feels reassuring. But then by the time 2 hours later, it's time to go to bed, I'm anxious again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so appreciate, even as you said that to me, when you corrected me, you say, wait, I do enjoy this. This isn't, right, that there is a big part of you once you are able to calm down and just kind of let yourself go a little bit, but that this is enjoyable for you too. That you're able to kind of stand up for that, I think is so important. So thank you for that. And this is a good spot to take a quick break.
This woman that we're talking about, George, definitely needs Uberlube. She needs a lot of things to really enjoy sex, and they need a lot of things, right? But I think Uberlube, you said wine, I say a lubricant, because many times if a woman isn't excited right in the beginning, a lubricant can really help her enjoy touch right at the beginning. And Uberlube, you can get it on uberlube.com with the coupon Foreplay. You get a discount. And it is scent-free. It feels good. It feels silky and soft. It is my favorite lubricant all time. And they come in travel sizes, like in little glass bottles that are beautiful. It has high-grade silicone, a little bit of vitamin E. Women always ask me, is this going to, give me a yeast infection or is it going to be a problem? No, this is great. It doesn't impact your pH. It doesn't impact your hormones. It won't cause an allergic reaction. I used to recommend another one that did cause allergies. So this is great. And it's recommended by thousands of doctors all over the United States. It's made here in the United States. And Lord knows we need work right now in the USA. So I would highly recommend Uberlube.
And let's not limit this just to the females out there.
No,
All right, a little Uber Lube for the men. Not too bad.
not too bad. And it helps when a woman's touching a man as well. It's a great feel. So definitely for that as well. And I appreciate you bringing that up. Uberlube.com with the coupon Foreplay. Thanks, y'all. George, you've got this whole new website that's coming up with training materials and stuff. Tell me about it.
It's called successinvulnerability.com. Similar to what we've been talking about in the podcast, I'm really trying to train therapists on how to keep their focus in session. And if you're going to invite couples and clients and families to risk doing vulnerability, then it's really critical that they have success when they do it. The reason why people don't do vulnerability is it doesn't work out so well for them when they do. So we really want to empower therapists to know what to do in these critical moments to kind of usher in the transformation that could happen when people go to these vulnerable spots.
So therapists who listen to us can go ahead and check it out, and you'll be doing trainings and all sorts of things, and you have a team of people. It's successinvulnerability.com. I'm excited about it. I get to learn a bunch more from George.
One of the blessings of COVID-19, I never had time, but we can get creative when we're locked in a house and come up with some new endeavors. So I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate any feedback and support.
I'm really enjoying being Eleanor. Unfortunately, my acting abilities, I'm starting to feel her and all her anxiety about this. I will say you're making it comfortable for me, though, as a woman talking to a man. I do feel good about that. It's like the way you say things, the way you phrase things.
Well, I'm also being impacted by Eleanor's story, right? And I can see kind of this anxiety, how it's getting in the way, and then how she's blamed for the anxiety. I mean, it's a tough spot that she's in, and I want her to be able to talk about her anxiety and feel like it's being honored instead of shaming her for it or just focusing on fixing it so quick that, we miss the person in gathering the information. So we're going to go back and just ask a couple more questions. Again, everyone, as we're listening, just see what questions resonate. Do you have answers? Do you not have answers? This is our laboratory, and words are the instruments that we're using. So, Eleanor.
Yes, therapist.
Do you ever get angry when your partner around sex? Can you express your frustrations and, things that are not working so well?
I get angry when he brings it up all the time. And yeah, sometimes I just get exasperated by him. Gosh, he's like a one-track mind. And I just think what I get angry about is, first of all, I don't know if he's happy. He doesn't let me know. And he also doesn't really let me know if the other things in our life are good. It's like I'm raising the kids, I go to work, I keep a neat house. That would not be me. And it's like all this stuff, and he never really makes any comments about it. So I just, then when he harps on sex, I get mad. Sometimes I get really mad. Yeah, I push back.
Okay, but your anger usually comes before having sex. Okay.
I'm not mad particularly about what happens in bed. That's fine.
Right. Well, do you find yourself being able to be critical or give feedback or anything during lovemaking?
I'm pretty quiet. I don't say much. I know I don't think I give any feedback.
Okay.
I mean, he kind of knows, but I guess he knows. I mean, I don't know.
You won't talk about kind of that anxious feeling or that empty feeling or kind of what's happening for you. You're so focused on hoping he's having a good experience that you wind up not sharing?
Definitely wind up not sharing. Yeah,
right.
I don't think I share.
And I think that's a beautiful thing that you're trying to do, Eleanor, right? You're trying to, it's so important that he enjoys the experience. There's really not a lot of room for you to talk about negative things that might weigh him down. So you try to protect him from that by keeping that to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that critical of him in bed. I'm not that critical. It's more, right. I mean, could we do things that would be a little bit better for me? Yeah, we probably really could. I wouldn't want to say it. I did say some things like I remember right in the beginning of our sexual experience together, and I told him a couple things, and he acted like I don't know, he got upset, and it wasn't, he got more angry, but it seemed like it hurt his feelings that somehow or another he thought he should know all that. And then from that point forward, I just thought, ooh, he has kind of this fragile ego and I don't want to hurt him. So yeah, I don't really say anything.
Mm-hmm. Again, that must be a tough spot when it feels like your husband's free to share things you're not doing well or not enough of, but you don't want to kind of let him know because you don't want to hurt his feelings and make things worse.
Right. As I don't want to hurt his feelings. And yes. So I would like to just take a break for a minute as a sex therapist, as I listen to Eleanor. I feel so sad for her, right? She lacks so much agency about directing this experience. And, we really still have no idea, is it good for her? And could it be good for her? And is that one of the elements that is missing that would make her desire more sex? Maybe, could we help her find a way to sort of take more ownership of this? Because it's not just him getting frustrated with her, but it's also her sense of, it's like she doesn't own this experience. She's all about him, which is beautiful and fine, but it's not necessarily fine for sustained intimacy between the two of them.
Right. And I think most sex therapists, unfortunately, with good intentions, want to push to have her take more ownership. But it's really hard to take ownership when you have high degrees of anxiety. Mm-hmm. Right? It's your longings get squished when fear is running the show.
Absolutely.
So we have to reduce the anxiety before we're going to start exploring. And if I start trying to lean too much into, well, what about you and what makes you happy and what turns you on, in a way that's putting more pressure. And so the timing's really matters for when you're going to go for that.
Right. You're absolutely right, George.
And I would find myself wanting, because this is more the emotional exploration, right? So once you said, as Eleanor, he can feel a bit insecure, and I don't want to make that worse, right? So there really isn't a lot of space to talk about that. But in that individual session is where I want to lean into that fear. Well, what would happen if you made him insecure? And that only grew inside of him. Like, what are these big fears that are really, would he find somebody else? Would he not want her? Would, they get divorced? Would the family break up? I mean, these are some big fears that are lurking, in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd find myself wanting to kind of explore that.
No, I agree with you. And I'm not saying you should change directions as the therapist. I'm just reacting to her, like what I feel when I listen to her and what I feel as a woman. I guess that's it. I love that question, though. And that's such a great EFT question of what would happen if you did direct him. What are you afraid would happen? I think you could ask her that right now. I think she's connected enough with you.
It breaks my heart to see, and how many partners have I worked with where it's been very similar dynamics, where when you're feeling empty and you're so scared that your partner's not going to be happy with you, that's not a great environment to feel turned on. Right. So that emotional work here is so important to making her feel like, let's honor that anxiety. Let her share it. Let her feel like it makes sense, that she's not beating herself up for feeling that way, which is so often what partners are going to do. Like, there's something wrong with me. I have low libido. I'm broken. No, this is a natural state when there's not a lot of room for you to share your fears. This is what happens when our fears are chronically suppressed.
Yes, and we have no idea about her libido right now.
No.
I mean, it's completely masked by anxiety. We don't know what she honestly feels about sex and the sexual experience for herself and between them. Much.
Right, and that question of, can you share or give feedback? And when you said, Ella, no, I can't, that's a big red flag for me that says, all right, this is the area where we're going to have to do a lot of work in. Right, to get her to see the value of, instead of just protecting her partner, what Eleanor is not recognizing is the cost of that protection is for her to lose herself. And then she's going to get blamed for losing herself, which is going to add more stress on top of her.
Exactly.
And that's a pretty vicious circle.
And she's a fairly typical patient, I would say.
All right. So, Eleanor, I just want to ask you another tough question, because even as you said that to me, you said, right, he can be a bit insecure And I really have to be careful not to make that worse. And it shows me how hard you're working and how much you love your husband. I guess I'm curious, what would happen if you weren't able to protect his insecurities if they grew? What are you afraid might happen?
Gosh, that is a deep question. I mean, I certainly get afraid of that. So I get afraid that somehow or another he's he's going to be more insecure. I mean, I think what I told you, I don't really tell him much about myself. What if it grew and I couldn't stop it? Is that what you're saying?
Right, if
I
those
couldn't comfort
fears.
it, or I couldn't change it. Um, this is so important to him. And I know it's so wrapped up in how he feels like he's a man. So it's almost like if I were to not be able to stop his frustration from growing, and he kind of, maybe I said something critical and bad, or something that he thinks is critical, or even just, I guess, redirecting him. I'm afraid he would not feel like a man, and he would be hurt, like irreparably hurt. That's what I'm afraid of.
And what might he do if he felt he wasn't a man and you couldn't repair that?
He gets mad at me a lot about sex, but that would be worse. It's like he would be deflated, lose his spirit or something, is what I'm afraid of.
Okay. And again, I just appreciate you letting me into that place, right? That if he got deflated and lost his spirit, you'd kind of lose a big part of who your husband is. That empty feeling inside of you would just grow.
I mean, yes, and then he would be empty, and that would be really sad.
Wow. Wow. So the payoff is if you can kind of, even if you lose part of you and you're empty, if he still feels secure, you still got your husband. But if you're not able to make him feel secure, you both wind up feeling pretty empty.
Right.
Wow.
And he's a good guy. I feel like just saying this is making him sound like he's not a good guy, but I mean, he works
Yeah.
hard and he's good to our kids. He's a good guy.
You got nice little strategies. See, listeners, how Eleanor bounces out of that place, right? There's not a lot of room
Right.
to talk about her fear. So she
Right.
wants to go back to protecting him because that's normally what she does. So I would want to say, yes, of course, Eleanor, he's a good guy, and he's so lucky to have you too, because look at how you're willing to sacrifice to kind of keep this love strong. It really touches me, right? And we're going to honor that. But the work is going to be helping Eleanor when she bounces out of herself and starts focusing on him and what she needs to do. We need to be able to get her to come back and put more words to actually that place inside of her.
Right. And I would say, as I impersonate her, my worry is this is an individual session, I take it, and we're going to come all back together. And I'm worried that the therapist is going to say something that I've said in a way that my husband is going to feel criticized. So it's like suddenly it becomes very important to me to let the therapist know, like kind of like if I had more of a voice, I'd say, please don't say any of this to my husband. I really don't want you to tell him what I've said because I'm afraid he'll take it. It's like not only do I protect him, now I want the therapist to protect him, and this is a closed system, right? Because we can't talk about things because she's so anxious something terrible is going to happen.
Exactly. So that's where we would, as a therapist, see a way of strengthening the alliance between a therapist and a client, right? To
Mm-hmm.
to really help you feel safer, to be more explicit about the process. So that psych ed that would say with all couples, what I'm trying to do is identify the things they can share and the things they can't share for very good reasons,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we can create safety, if your husband kind of wanted to know more about these places where you struggled inside, that would be something that probably would be different for you. What do you think that would be like, Eleanor, if your husband really didn't know a lot of this, but wanted to kind of help you in these places where you feel pretty anxious or pretty empty?
I guess that would feel good. I guess that would feel good. I never really thought about him wanting to know any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that he's that deep, honestly. I think he just wants sex, but I mean, does he want to know what I think about? I don't know. It would feel good.
It seems like when you're getting kissing or cuddling, when it doesn't lead to sex, when you get his interest, that's what's comforting you in these anxious places. That's a beautiful way of doing it. Another way is like when you're feeling that way, if you could communicate and you knew he wanted to help you there, that would be a road that currently you two don't have to use with each other.
Mm-hmm. Right. We don't do that with each other. I don't think any of this do we really talk about that much.
Well, thank you, Eleanor. I want to make sure that she leaves feeling successful, that the risk that she took in fighting for herself is a way of bringing more energy into her relationship and into her life and into her relationship. So,
and I would say I hope that male sexual pursuers out there have had a look at what a woman who might be a little more anxious and appearing to avoid sex looks like. So she looks sexually avoidant, but she's also emotionally anxiously attached, very preoccupied by him and his experience. I just hope that provides people with an insight of what it feels like. That's what I love about doing this podcast with you, George, is we let people in to see things that I think they might not be able to see otherwise.
Totally agree. And I hope it's people listening. You know, we get a couple of these emails every week saying it feels like you're front row and, in our relationship and in our bedroom and seeing, like, how do we know all this stuff? We know all this stuff because this is what humans do.
Yeah.
Right? We have good reasons why we protect ourselves. It's usually coming from a loving place, and we just haven't had help from people to find our words, to know how to communicate in a way that will be successful. And that really is the mission of this podcast. It's to let people communicate in much more direct, powerful ways.
Mm-hmm. And if this was meaningful to you, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. And thanks for listening to us.
Give us good ratings.
And give some ratings. That would be good too. Thanks for listening to Foreplay Radio.
Keep it hot, baby.
Hey patrons, Lori is offering a Facebook Live on Friday night, June 12th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. Sign up today.
For those of you who are listening today, we are also going to send out some free Uberlube to those of you who sponsor us on our Patreon page.
Call in your questions to the Foreplay question voicemail. Dial 833-MY-4PLAY. That's 833-4-PLAY. And we'll use the questions for our mailbag episodes. All content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for therapy by a licensed clinician or as medical advice from a doctor.